Some hearts seem forever turned to stone until a single warm glance melts the frost away. Alex, the man who once lost everything, found himself again in Bella's steadfast love, in Mateo's pure laughter, and in baby Lucia's first cry. They built a family on trust, sacrifice, and the miracle called love out of ruin and schemes. Their story reminds us that no loss is the final ending, as long as we still dare to love and be loved. Whitmore Tower rose in the heart of Chicago like a steel blade, piercing through the heavy gray skies of the Midwest. On its 65th floor lay the private domain of Alexander Alex Whitmore, a world of glass and marble, where every surface reflected the cold perfection of its master. That evening, the city glittered below, headlights threading Michigan Avenue like veins of restless blood. But Alex didn't see the life pulsing beneath him. He saw only his reflection in the floor-to-ceiling glass, a lean, sharp figure with hollow green eyes stripped of warmth. At 34, he owned a $12 billion empire and could make the financial world tremble with a single decision. Yet inside, there was nothing but a hollow void. 16 years earlier, on a rain-slicked suburban road, a single skid had ended everything. His fiancée, Claire Donovan, the elementary school teacher with the sunlit smile, his dream of children playing in a garden, even his chance at fatherhood, all gone in one cruel instant. Since then, Alex had lived like a dead man forced to breathe. He built walls of power, concealing his grief behind the mask of a ruthless businessman. People called him the Ice King of Chicago, for no one could reach his heart long after turning to stone. Mr. Whitmore, Charlotte Lottie Graves, his personal assistant, spoke through the intercom, her tone gentle yet firm. "The new housekeeper candidate has arrived. Do you wish to meet her?" Alex's gaze stayed fixed on the skyline. "Have Edmund handle the interview. I don't have time for trivialities." "Sir," Lottie hesitated. "After the recent scandal, you insisted on personally approving all staff on this floor." A flicker of annoyance crossed Alex's face. The incident 3 months ago was still an open wound. His former housekeeper, once trusted, had secretly taken photographs of his private life and sold them to the tabloids. Images of his cold, empty bedroom, the untouched bed, the prescription bottles, splashed across front pages. For Wall Street, it was a scandal. For Alex, it was betrayal, more profound than any financial loss. His penthouse had been the last fortress, the only place he shed his mask. Now, even that had been violated. "Conference room. 5 minutes," he said curtly, cutting the line. Straightening his silver-gray Armani tie, Alex strode down the marble-veined corridor. His Italian shoes echoed with a hollow rhythm, like the beat of his own heart. Everything on this floor, from the leather chairs to the crystal chandeliers, was designed to project power. The more opulent, the colder it felt. The glass doors slid open. Alex entered the conference room, expecting the usual parade of middle-aged applicants with thick resumes and tired faces. But this time itself seemed to pause. The woman waiting there was unlike anyone he had ever met. She wore a simple black dress, faded but elegant. Her dark hair was swept into a neat bun, revealing a slender neck. When she looked up, her gaze met his eyes, the color of melting chocolate, alight with intelligence and quiet resolve. A tightening gripped Alex's chest. For the first time in years, he heard his own heartbeat pounding. "Mr. Whitmore," said Edmund Carter, his long-serving manager, with his usual British composure, "allow me to introduce Miss Isabella Morales. Her credentials and references are excellent." The woman rose and extended her hand. "Thank you for taking the time to see me, Mr. Whitmore." Her voice carried a soft Spanish lilt, every word like a music note. Alex took her hand. Her skin was delicate, yet faintly roughened traces of hard work. A jolt ran up his arm. She met his eyes directly, unflinching. For years, senators, CEOs, lawyers, even politicians had all bowed before Alex. But this woman looked at him as if he were simply a man, not an icon, not a predator. He swallowed. "Your experience?" "I worked 4 years for Dr. Beaumont Ashworth's family in Houston," Bella said smoothly. "Before that, I managed cleaning staff for several large office buildings. I understand the importance of discretion and absolute respect for privacy." Alex studied her. Her English was precise, only faltering slightly on difficult words. He wondered how many barriers, language, culture, even legal, she had overcome just to be here. Why did you leave Houston? For a brief second, sorrow flickered in her eyes, then disappeared. Dr. Ashworth relocated to Boston for research. I stayed in Texas to care for my grandmother. The word family cut through Alex like a blade. Family, what he had lost. Parents in a plane crash, Claire with her laughter, and their unborn children. All that remained was a company, money, and cold alliances. This job requires living in the penthouse, Alex said, his tone instinctively colder. Unpredictable hours. Above all, absolute privacy. Bella nodded. I understand completely, and I respect that. Edmund will show you to your quarters. Start tomorrow at 7 a.m. Alex turned, ending the interview. Mr. Whitmore. Her voice stopped him. When he looked back, she smiled, not the forced smile of etiquette, but one warm as spring sunlight breaking through Chicago's gray skies. Thank you for giving me this chance. I promise you won't regret it. Alex gave the slightest nod and left. But his heart was racing, his chest heavy as though he had forgotten how to breathe. In the private elevator, he tried to steady himself. It's just biology. A man reacting to a beautiful woman. Nothing more. He poured a glass of Macallan 25, drained it in a single swallow, but the rare whiskey could not warm the ice in his chest. For 16 years, he had built his fortress of steel, and with a single glance and smile, Isabella Morales had carved the first crack. Tomorrow, she would step into his world, and Alexander Whitmore, the man who controlled everything, sensed he was about to lose control of the one thing that mattered most, his heart. The next morning, Chicago awoke beneath a thin veil of mist-pale sunlight filtered between skyscrapers, scattering gold shards across Lake Michigan. For most, it was a peaceful dawn, but the air was heavy as a courtroom on the 65th floor of Whitmore Tower. Alex had been awake since 4. He never needed an alarm. Nightmares had long done that job. Drenched in sweat, he would sit up in his king-sized bed, fists clutching the sheets, always the same dream, Claire's gentle smile, her white dress stained with rain, her hand slipping from his as tires screeched. The crash, the smell of fuel, and then emptiness. Claire, he whispered hoarsely, eyes burning. 16 years. Time should have healed, but for Alex, it only lay scars over scars, tearing them open again each night. He rose and trained in his private gym, an hour of running, 40 minutes of weights, 15 rounds of boxing. His muscles hardened, but his gaze stayed hollow. He didn't train for health. He trained to drown the emptiness inside. At precisely 7, the security chime rang. Someone new was entering the floor. Alex toweled off, pulled on a white shirt, and headed toward the kitchen. Bella Morales was there. She wore the simple uniform Edmund had prepared, a pale blue blouse, cream slacks, hair tied neatly back. Yet the way she moved, graceful, composed, transformed the cold kitchen entirely. The aroma of Arabica coffee mingled with the scent of toasted bread. Morning light fell across her face, deepening the warmth of her brown eyes. "Good morning, Mr. Whitmore," she said softly, her voice steady but kind. Alex froze. How long had it been since anyone greeted him like that? Assistants gave reports, secretaries awaited orders, and so-called friends appeared only at cocktail hour. For him, morning had always been nothing more than the continuation of last night's nightmares. "Morning," he replied shortly, clinging to his usual coldness. "Do you prefer your coffee black or with milk?" Such a simple question, and yet it unsettled him. Since Claire's death, he had only drunk whiskey at dawn or machine-brewed coffee. No one had asked his preference. "Black," he said. Then after a pause, "No sugar." Bella's lips curved into a quiet smile. She precisely poured the coffee, setting the porcelain cup before him, without spilling a drop. "Thank you," Alex said before he realized it, and at once he noticed how long it had been since he'd spoken those words. In the days that followed, Bella's presence began reshaping the penthouse. The rarely used kitchen filled with the scent of warm meals. The withered plants Claire had once tended slowly revived under Bella's care. Even the faint sounds of cleaning, or the gentle Latin music she played while working, wove a rhythm that felt foreign yet soothing. Alex watched from a distance. Part of him wanted to push her away, to keep the walls intact. But another part, the part he thought long buried, was drawn to the life she brought with her. One evening, after a grueling board meeting, Alex found Bella in the living room, reading by the window. Outside, Chicago shimmered with city lights. Inside, she seemed like a tender fragment of another world, softened against the steel. "What are you reading?" Alex asked, his voice rougher than usual. Bella looked up, her eyes luminous under the lamp. "The Old Man and the Sea, Hemingway. I'm practicing my English." He raised a brow. "Not an easy author for language study." "That's true." She smiled, hesitant but genuine. "But I like challenges. That story. It reminds me of my grandmother. She used to say, 'The sea can swallow you whole, but if you endure, it can also gift you its most beautiful treasures.'" Alex fell silent. Her words echoed within him like a truth he had forgotten. Their eyes met, no words, only stillness. And for the first time in years, Alex didn't fear the silence. He felt peace. That night, as he lay in bed, sleep came slowly but without nightmares. The final image in his mind was not Claire vanishing in the rain, but Bella, her eyes warm in the glow of a lamp. Alex turned, his heartbeat steady. He knew another crack had opened in his fortress of steel, and Isabella Morales was the one who made it. Bella's first night in the penthouse passed quietly, but by the third night, the ghosts began to stir. At night, Chicago was an ocean of lights, traffic streaming endlessly far below the tower. On the 65th floor, the city's noise could not reach. Only an eerie silence remained, pierced now and then by the wind howling against the glass. Bella was cleaning the living room when she heard a strange sound, ragged breathing, a strangled cry like the wounded plea of a trapped animal. She froze, heart racing, straining to listen. The sound came from the end of the corridor, beyond the steel door to the main bedroom. "Mr. Whitmore?" she called softly. No answer, only the sounds of anguish, growing harsher. Dropping her cloth, Bella hurried toward the door. She pushed it open and froze. Alex was thrashing on the bed. His sleep shirt clung with sweat, his face contorted in pain. Words tore from his lips in broken gasps. "Claire, don't go. Please, Claire." Bella stepped closer, her chest tightening. Never had she seen a man so powerful look so undone. Not the billionaire CEO, but a broken soul, trapped in memories that had devoured his life. "Mr. Whitmore," she whispered, sitting on the edge of the bed, her hand light on his shoulder. "You're dreaming. Wake up. It's all right." Alex jolted, eyes snapping open, wild with panic. He gasped, disoriented, searching the room until his gaze locked on Bella. Slowly, fear ebbed, leaving a flush of shame. "What are you doing here?" His voice was hoarse. "I heard you calling out. I thought you were having a nightmare." He sat up abruptly, turning away. "You shouldn't have come in. This is my private space." Bella was silent momentarily, then said gently, "You're right. I shouldn't. But some pain isn't meant to be borne alone." A humorless laugh escaped him. "Trust me, I've borne it alone for 16 years, still breathing. But that's not living, Mr. Whitmore." Her eyes held his with steady certainty. "That's only existing." Her words pierced through his armor. He stared back, seeing no fear in her gaze, only honesty, unwavering against the storm inside him. Everyone feared Alex's eyes, rivals, lawyers, politicians. But this immigrant housekeeper looked into his darkness without flinching. A long silence stretched. At last, Alex buried his face in his hands, voice breaking. "It's every night. I can't escape it." Bella hesitated, then laid her hand gently on his arm. "Ghosts only have power if you let them rule you. But if you share them, they weaken." He lifted his head, eyes red. "You think you can save me?" She didn't answer directly. Her voice trembled slightly, but her conviction was clear. "I think I can stand by you. Sometimes, that's enough." The room fell still. Wind moaned against the windows. Alex's heartbeat pounded, and through it all, Bella's calm breathing was like an anchor in the storm. That night, for the first time in years, Alex allowed someone to stay with him until sleep returned. As he drifted off, head slumped against the chair, Bella remained, watching his features ease, no longer twisted by nightmares. In her mother tongue, words he couldn't understand slipped from her lips. "Señor de Hielo, you are not alone." And outside, Chicago blazed with light, but a fragile flame had just been lit within that room. The next morning, Alex woke later than usual. Sunlight spilled across the room, and instead of the familiar weight of dread, he felt something strangely lighter. The nightmare had still come, but it hadn't swallowed him whole. Beside the bed, the chair still bore the crease of someone who had sat there through the night. He knew it was Bella. For years, Alex had never allowed anyone into his private sanctuary. Even Edmund, loyal to the family for 3 decades, had never set foot inside without permission. Yet this new woman had done the impossible, sat by him, soothed him, reminded him that the dark was not the only thing that existed. When he entered the kitchen, Bella was preparing breakfast. On the table, fried eggs, toast, and fresh fruit. "Good morning, Mr. Whitmore," she said brightly. Alex studied her, then replied slowly, "Good morning." He sat, lifting the coffee cup. It was still hot, as though she had anticipated his arrival. "What time did you wake?" he asked, unable to hide his curiosity. 5. I'm used to it. At home, my grandmother always said, "A new day begins with hard work." Alex gave a slight nod, eating in silence. Yet inside, unease stirred not because of Bella, but because of himself. Why did he care about her hours? Why did such simple words touch him so deeply? The whole morning, he buried himself in work, back-to-back meetings, reports, towering numbers of profits and investments. But even in the heat of boardroom debates, he saw again Bella's image from the night before, her hand on his shoulder, her steady gaze. That evening, after an international call, Alex stood at the window, the city lights below like a scattered galaxy, but the beauty no longer moved him. What he felt was emptiness. "Do you believe in ghosts, Bella?" he asked as he heard her footsteps behind him. She paused, then answered softly, "Yes, but not the kind people imagine in horror stories. The real ghosts are memories we refuse to let go." Alex turned. She stood with a cloth in her hand, her eyes resolute. "You think memories haunt me?" He gave a bitter smile. "I don't think." Her gaze didn't waver. "I see it." The simplicity of her words caught him off guard. To the world, he was an impregnable fortress. But Bella saw straight through the walls. "And if you're right," his voice was sharp, "then you don't have to fight them alone anymore." Alex fell silent. Her words rang like a bell, awakening something long buried, the memory of companionship. That night, when the nightmare returned, Alex didn't thrash. He woke drenched in sweat, chest heaving, but instead of sitting alone in the hollow dark, he stepped into the living room. Bella was there, reading under the lamplight. She looked up, surprised. "Couldn't sleep?" "Nightmare," he admitted, voice rough. Closing her book, she patted the seat beside her. "Then sit here. Darkness isn't so frightening when it's shared." Slowly, Alex walked over and sat. For the first time in 16 years, he chose not to face his ghosts alone. And in the quiet of Chicago's night, something new began to take root. Winter arrived in Chicago without warning, bringing winds that sliced like blades and snow that blanketed the avenues. But in the heights of Whitmore Tower, something stranger than snow was stirring. Warmth. Alex realized it was what should have been an ordinary evening. After a long day negotiating contracts in New York, he returned home late. As the door opened, instead of the usual tomb-like silence, he heard the faint strains of piano, not from the sleek sound system wired into the penthouse, but from an old electric keyboard tucked in the corner of the living room. Bella was there. Her slender hands touched the keys, weaving a gentle melody. She hadn't noticed him. Her eyes were half closed, her face softened, her dark hair loose against her shoulders. Alex froze, his chest tightening. The sight yanked him back to the past Claire had once played, too. Evenings in their small apartment, music filling the room as they dreamed aloud about a future that never came. The pain cut sharply. as it always did. But tonight, it didn't devour him. Instead, memory blended with the present, shifting into something warmer, almost tender. "You play." His voice was rough, almost unrecognizable. Bella was startled, hands holding the keys. "I'm sorry, Mr. Whitmore. I found the keyboard in storage. I just wanted to try." "No need to apologize." Alex stepped closer, sitting opposite her. "You play beautifully." She smiled, shy but genuine. "I'm not trained. My grandmother taught me a few notes. But when my heart feels heavy, I play. It helps me breathe easier." He studied her. "And tonight, your heart is heavy?" Silence lingered before she nodded. "You're not the only one with ghosts, Mr. Whitmore." The words struck like lightning across a dark sky. He had never considered that Bella, this quiet light in his fortress, might carry her own shadows. "Who did you lose?" His voice softened. Her fingers rested on the keys, her eyes distant. "My parents. They worked in a garment factory in Juarez. When I was 19, it burned. No fire exits, no alarms. The owner only cared about profit. They died with 16 others." Alex was mute. He thought of how she tended to every detail in his home, her insistence on safety and order. Now he understood. "I'm sorry," he said, knowing how small the words were. Bella shook her head gently. "I learned to go on. I had my grandmother. I had hope. But sometimes the memories return, just like your ghosts." The room fell into a long, aching quiet. Then Alex asked, barely above a whisper, "You're not afraid? When you see me thrashing in the night, afraid my nightmares might drag you down too?" Bella lifted her gaze. Her brown eyes shone with a steady light. "I've feared many things, but now, the greatest fear is never daring to give my heart. If pain can be shared, it becomes lighter. I won't run, Mr. Whitmore." Alex's heartbeat thundered. For years, no one had spoken to him this way. He was used to false admiration, greedy smiles, and empty handshakes. But this was truth, unyielding yet straightforward. Almost without thinking, he reached out, his hand brushing over hers, still resting on the keys. She flinched slightly but didn't pull away. And in that fragile moment, Alex felt the ice inside him begin to melt. That night, standing before his mirror, he studied his reflection. The face was as hard as ever, but in his eyes flickered something new, a fragile spark he thought lost forever. "Like a confession," he whispered. "Claire, maybe I'm not dead after all." The days that followed reshaped the penthouse. Alex's routines remained, relentless meetings, billion-dollar deals. But each evening when he returned, traces of life greeted him: a faint scent of soup, a vase of wildflowers on his desk, music drifting softly from the kitchen. Bella never tried to change him. She was. And her presence alone was a quiet revolution. One snowy afternoon, the city lay hushed beneath white. From the 65th floor, the streets below looked like a painting. Alex had just ended a long call with Tokyo investors when he saw Bella standing by the window, watching the flakes descend. "It's the first time I've seen snow from this high up," she said, not turning. Back in Juarez, winter was only wind and dust. "Do you like it?" Alex asked, stepping nearer. Her smile reflected the snow's glow. "Yes. Snow feels like magic. It covers everything, even the ugly parts, and makes the world look pure again. But what? But then it melts, and what's hidden comes back." Alex said nothing. The words cut too close. Wasn't he himself a man covered in snow, pain, and loneliness, buried under wealth, power, and ice? And hadn't Bella already begun to thaw it all away? "Maybe what matters," he said slowly, "is finding someone who won't be afraid of what's revealed when the snow is gone." Bella turned, meeting his gaze. For an instant, 16 frozen years collapsed into nothing. "You're right," she whispered. The moment stretched, heavy and beautiful. Alex felt the pull to reach out, to touch the softness of her hair, to close the aching distance. But he stopped himself. His walls weren't fully down. His fear still ruled. So instead, he changed course. "Do you have family here, other than your grandmother?" She shook her head. "Just her." I spent my youth caring for her. Friends, most drifted away into their own lives. Alex heard the quiet sadness beneath her words. He understood it too well. And you? Bella asked in return, gently but directly. Do you have anyone? Besides work and memories? The question lodged in his throat. He wanted to say yes, that he had allies, colleagues, people who respected him. But those were illusions. In truth, when night fell, he had only emptiness. No, he admitted. No one. Bella said nothing. Instead, she stepped one pace closer, just enough to narrow the space between them to something fragile, almost breakable. Alex caught the faint scent of her hair. He could hear his own heart drumming. The thought flashed if he leaned forward now, he could taste her lips. But he didn't. He stepped back into his armor. You should rest, he said, his voice cold again. I have an important meeting tomorrow. I need everything in order. Bella studied him for a long moment. No reproach filled her eyes, only a quiet sadness, as if she understood that his walls would not collapse all at once. Yes, Mr. Whitmore, she replied softly, before leaving the room. Alex sank into a chair when the door shut, his hands trembling as though he had let something monumental slip away. An old voice echoed inside him. If you let fear rule, you will lose everything again. That night, sleep evaded him. But for once, it wasn't the nightmares that kept him awake. The fire he now ached to set free was the fragile flame flickering against the ice. The weekend wrapped Chicago in crisp air and golden light. Along Michigan Avenue, leaves swirled in the wind, shoppers hurried with bags and steaming coffee, laughter rippling in the cold. For Bella, it was the first time she felt ordinary in months. Alex was surprised even by the invitation. Come with me to visit your grandmother. The words, spoken aloud, had left both Lottie and Edmund stunned. Alexander Whitmore, famous for his impenetrable privacy, a man who skipped family occasions of his own staff, now wanted to meet the grandmother of his new housekeeper. The drive westward was silent. The car glided smoothly, but Alex's thoughts were tangled. For years, he had avoided personal ties, barricading himself from anything resembling intimacy. Crossing the threshold of Bella's home was not a simple courtesy. It meant letting her step deeper into his world. Beside him, Bella twisted the hem of her dress, fingers clenched. Her fear was not for herself, but for Alex. Rosa Morales was sharp-tongued, often blunt to the point of cruelty. Bella knew her grandmother would not easily welcome a wealthy but guarded man like Alex. The car stopped before a small wooden house, jasmine blossoms scenting the air. The door opened, and Rosa emerged, silver hair, slight frame, but eyes sharp as glass. Isabella. She folded Bella into her arms, whispering in Spanish. Then her gaze fell on Alex, and the atmosphere shifted. And this is? She asked, half curious, half wary. Bella hesitated, but Alex spoke first. He inclined his head, an unusual gesture of humility. I'm Alexander Whitmore, Mum. Thank you for allowing me to visit. Rosa's eyes narrowed. Whitmore? The Chicago magnates? Alex nodded once. Yes, money means nothing to me. Her arms crossed, gaze piercing. I only want to know, why are you here? Bella's breath caught. She was ready to intervene, but Alex surprised her with his honesty. I'm here because of Isabella. Because I want you to know she matters to me. She matters greatly. A heavy silence fell. Rosa scrutinized him like a judge. At last, she turned to Bella. Do you believe him? Bella swallowed. Her eyes met Alex's steady, unguarded. Her heart clenched. I do. Rosa gave a slight nod and stepped aside. Then come in. The house was humble, yet warm. Old family photos lined the walls, a round wooden table draped with lace, the smell of corn soup and sweet bread drifting through the air. This was Bella's world, the opposite of Whitmore Tower's sterile luxury. Over dinner, Rosa grilled Alex relentlessly about his past, intentions, and family. Each question was a blade. Alex answered without evasion, even when speaking of Claire, of the scar that never healed. Do you think you can love again, after all that? Rosa asked bluntly. Silence stretched. Bella's heart pounded painfully. Then Alex's voice came, low and steady. I don't know. But when I met Isabella, For the first time in years, I wanted to try. The room hushed. Rosa studied him, then her granddaughter. At last, the edge of her lips softened, not quite a smile, but no longer hard. "Only time will tell," she said. "But today, I believe you meant that." Bella exhaled in relief, and Alex felt something strange. He wasn't diminished in that crucible of questions. He was lighter. For once, he hadn't needed money or power to prove himself, only sincerity. The evening wind was cold when they left Rosa's home, but Alex's chest carried a warmth he didn't recognize. Beside him, Bella's eyes glimmered with joy and emotion. "Thank you," she whispered, "for coming." He looked at her, and the thought came clear. Maybe I'm not alone anymore. That night, back in Whitmore Tower, Alex was restless. He had faced boardrooms, multinational corporations, and even sparred with politicians. Yet nothing had unnerved him like Rosa Morales. Sitting on his sofa, he admitted the truth. What unsettled him wasn't Rosa's scrutiny, but his feelings. He had wanted to win approval. He had feared disappointing Bella. She appeared, cradling the wool scarf Rosa had knitted for her, face still radiant from the visit. "My grandmother likes you," she said lightly. Alex raised a brow. "Truly? I thought she meant to throw me out on sight." Bella laughed, her smile brightening the room. "If she truly disliked you, you'd never have crossed the threshold. She trusts her instincts." And today, she saw a man who wasn't Alexander Whitmore, CEO, billionaire, Ice King, but simply a man. Alex fell silent. He had never realized how much he longed to be seen as just that. The urge rose, unstoppable, to bridge the fragile distance between them. "Bella," his voice was husky, "have you ever thought that there could be more between us than this?" She froze, eyes wide, breath trembling. "Are you asking me?" He stood, moving close, until only a step separated them, their breaths mingling. "I've shut myself away for 16 years. I believed my heart died with Claire. But since you came, I feel it beating again. I want to live, not just exist." Bella's gaze locked on his. Her pulse thundered, but her voice was firm. "I am not Claire. I don't want to replace her." "No." His eyes burned with truth. "You're not Claire, and that's exactly why I need you." In that instant, the last barrier fell. Alex lowered his head, his lips brushing hers. At first, it was tentative, trembling, but then the flame surged, fierce and desperate, as if both feared the moment might vanish forever. Bella answered, with no hesitation left. Fear, distance, ghosts, all dissolved in their embrace. When the kiss broke, their foreheads rested together, breath ragged. Alex whispered, "I don't know what the future holds, but I know. I want you in it." Bella's eyes glistened as she nodded. "Then let's find that answer together." Outside, Chicago's night burned with 1,000 lights. But within the penthouse, a new universe had been born, one where two shattered souls had found each other, and fire rose from the ruins of ice. Rumors traveled faster than the wind through Chicago's elite. Barely 2 weeks after Bella appeared at a small event on Alex's arm, whispers erupted everywhere. Alexander Whitmore, the Ice King, has a woman. And what shocked society even more, she wasn't a debutante, nor a powerful businesswoman, just a housekeeper who once worked inside Whitmore Tower. At the City Finance Council's annual gala, the air hummed with gossip when Alex walked in with Bella. "My God, he really brought her? Is this some joke? The Whitmores will be furious. She looks gentle enough, but don't forget how many women have tried to climb onto that throne." Alex ignored them all. His hand firmly clasped Bella's, a silent declaration clear. "She is mine, and I am proud." But Bella felt every whisper like a blade. She knew that walking beside Alex meant scrutiny, dissection, judgment. She remembered Rosa's warning. When you love a powerful man, you must also love the battles that come with him. The first battle came not from strangers, but within the Whitmore family's mansion. Melanie Whitmore, Alex's mother, was a woman of iron who was used to commanding and never pleading. When Alex introduced Bella, Melanie's lips didn't curve into even the smallest smile. "Alexander," she said icily, "I thought this was just a distraction, and now you bring her into this house?" Alex tightened his grip on Bella's hand. She's not a distraction. She's the woman I love. Melanie's eyes flared with outrage. Love? Do you understand what the Whitmore name carries? She comes from nothing. How could she possibly shoulder that burden with you? Bella stood still, forcing her breath steady. This was Alex's fight, but she would fight for their love if needed. Her origins don't matter, Alex answered firmly. What matters is her heart. Melanie's cane struck the marble floor with a crack. A heart cannot answer to shareholders. A heart cannot safeguard a legacy. You lost Claire, and I accepted that grief. But don't expect forgiveness if you drag this family's honor through the mud with this mistake. Bella shivered. The words weren't mere warnings, they were a declaration of war. Alex turned to her, his eyes resolute. If I must choose between the family and you, I choose you. Silence swallowed the room. Melanie stared at her son in disbelief, then swept out without another word. Behind her, the shadowed halls seemed to promise storms still to come. By morning, Chicago's press exploded with headlines. Alexander Whitmore goes public with former housekeeper. Whitmore Empire faces an honor crisis. Love or scandal? Tabloids feasted on Bella's past. Paparazzi photos of her grocery shopping with Rosa splashed online, accompanied by fabricated stories of the immigrant girl climbing high. Bella sat frozen before the screen, her hands trembling. She had never felt so small. Stop reading. Alex closed the laptop with finality, fury sparking in his eyes. I'll handle it. But they're right, Bella whispered, voice breaking. I'm just ordinary. I don't belong in your world. Alex lifted her chin, forcing her gaze to meet his. Listen to me, Bella. You belong to me. And whatever world I live in, you are half of it. His words warmed her heart, yet fear still coiled within. Meanwhile, inside Whitmore Group's headquarters, the actual storm brewed. The board, composed mainly of wealthy allies loyal to the family, was restless. Alexander is gambling the company's reputation for a girl, one elder snarled. We cannot let personal indulgence jeopardize tens of billions, another added. Melanie presided at the head of the table, her face a mask of ice. I warned him. If Alexander continues, we must prepare a replacement. Gasps rippled. You mean, overthrow him? Force him out as CEO? The room shuddered at her words. A cautious voice rose. But who could replace him? No one carries Alexander's influence. Melanie's lips curved coldly. We'll find someone, or at least make him understand. Loving an outsider means paying in power. That night, Alex received an anonymous email. The attachment consists of doctored images that suggest Bella's involvement with a minor businessman. If leaked, it would shatter her fragile public image. Filthy games, Alex growled, summoning his lawyers and cyber team. Bella walked in, catching the storm in his eyes. What's wrong? He hesitated, then showed her the screen. Her chest constricted at the sight of the forged photos. They'll never let us be, will they? Alex pulled her into his arms, his voice iron. I promise you, Bella, whatever they do, I will protect you. She pressed against him, listening to his heartbeat hammering steadily and fiercely. And in that moment, Bella understood. She had stepped into a war without retreat, where love was not just an emotion but their only weapon against an empire. Outside, Chicago glittered with light, but in the shadowed heights of Whitmore Tower, two souls held each other tightly, bracing for the storm. It was a Monday morning when the storm broke. Alex was in a board meeting when Magnolia, his loyal assistant, entered, face pale. She laid a thick envelope before him. Sir, this is a copy of a federal subpoena. The FBI is accusing Whitmore Group of international money laundering. The room froze. Alex scanned the page's offshore accounts in Cayman, Bermuda, Singapore, all in his name, with flawless digital signatures. It was so perfect, even if he could barely tell the difference. This is impossible, he muttered. A board member shot to his feet. This is outrageous. Mr. Whitmore, the company's reputation on Wall Street is at stake. Melanie Whitmore sat at the far end of the table with her eyes glittering, her lips hiding the faintest trace of a smile. That evening, Alex returned to the penthouse, his silence heavier than usual. Bella approached, worry etched across her face. What happened, Alex? He pulled her into his arms, voice raw. They're trying to destroy me. And they won't stop with me, they'll drag you down too. Bella shivered. I'm not afraid for myself. I'm only afraid of losing you. He pressed his lips to her forehead. I've lost everything once before. I won't let history repeat. 2 days later, an old face appeared in his office. James Holloway, once his partner and friend. James avoided his gaze, guilt heavy in his eyes. I'm sorry. Alex's voice was steel. Sorry? For what? James slid a USB drive across the desk. For betraying you. They left me no choice. My daughter is sick, her treatment costs a fortune. They promised to pay if I handed over evidence against you. Alex's chest constricted. Who? James met his eyes at last. Senator William Patterson. And your mother. The room iced over. That night, Bella found Alex alone in his study, shadows carving his features. Alex, his voice cracked. Do you know what my mother has done? She joined Patterson to fabricate evidence, to brand me a criminal. Bella gripped his hand. We can fight them. The truth will prevail. He gave a hollow laugh. Truth doesn't matter to those who own the law, the press. They'll grind us down until nothing's left. Then we hold on to what they can't touch, Bella whispered, tears brimming. Each other. I won't let you fall. In that moment, Alex realized this battle was no longer about legacy but protecting the woman who had become his world. Meanwhile, Senator Patterson swirled red wine in a private suite in Washington, D.C., speaking to Melanie with smug delight. We've cornered him. Once Alexander loses everything, he'll have no choice but to submit. Melanie said nothing, but a flicker of pain crossed her eyes. Deep down, she was still a mother, but pride and the hunger for power drove her deeper into the shadows of this game. Friday dawned grey. The penthouse doorbell rang furiously. Bella opened it to find FBI agents in black coats. Alexander Whitmore, one woman asked coolly. You're under arrest for suspicion of international money laundering, tax fraud, and abuse of financial authority. Alex emerged, eerily calm, though his fists clenched. He turned to Bella. Don't be afraid. I won't let them hurt you. The agents wrenched his arms back, cuffs snapping around his wrists. Outside, the lobby swarmed with paparazzi, their cameras exploding in flashes. He's innocent. This is a setup, Bella screamed, but her voice was drowned in the roar of headlines. Within hours, the news blazed everywhere. Whitmore CEO arrested. Billion-dollar empire on the brink. Immigrant lover at the heart of the scandal. Alone in the cavernous penthouse, Bella stared at the images of Alex in handcuffs, splashed across the television. Her heart felt torn in two, but fire burned in her eyes. She remembered his words. If anything happens, go to Magnolia. Alex sat in a cold interrogation room before piles of evidence bearing his forged signature. You can lessen your sentence if you cooperate, an agent said flatly. Name your accomplices or face life in prison. Alex's gaze cut like steel. I'll sign nothing. This is theater, and I'll tear down your stage. That night, Bella met Magnolia in a dim cafe on the city's edge. Magnolia slid a hidden file across the table. We traced the accounts, she whispered. Alex didn't create them. The trail leads straight to a server in Washington inside Senator Patterson's office. Bella's breath caught. If we expose this, Alex will be cleared? Magnolia shook her head. Not that simple. Patterson has allies in the Justice Department. They'll bury it if it's just our word. We need a public blow media. Witnesses. Bella straightened, resolve blazing. Then I'll be the witness. I saw Patterson at Melanie Whitmore's home. I heard them talk about removing Bella from the board. Magnolia froze. If you do this, you'll make yourself a target. Patterson won't spare you. Bella's voice trembled, but her eyes were firm. I don't matter as much as Alex. He risked everything to love me. Now it's my turn to protect him. In his cell, Alex sat on a narrow cot, head bowed. A guard approached, slipping him a folded scrap of paper. He opened it. A single line, handwritten. Don't give up. Bella and I are fighting for you. Alex's lips curved into a smile for the first time in days. Heat stirred in his chest, defying the cold walls around him. They thought Bella was fragile. They thought Patterson's power was absolute. but they were about to face the one force no empire could withstand, a love fierce enough to defy the world. A week after Alex's arrest, the sky above Chicago seemed grayer. News channels looped endlessly with updates on the Whitmore case. Financial experts, lawyers, analysts all shook their heads. The evidence is too strong. Alexander Whitmore will not escape conviction. But Bella refused to believe. She sat in Magnolia's modest apartment, their hideout from the paparazzi's gaze, spreading files across the table. "We have to find the crack," she whispered. Magnolia pointed to a line in the data. "Here." The first offshore transactions appeared just months after Alex rejected Senator Patterson's merger proposal. Too convenient. Bella's eyes lit with resolve. "If we can prove Patterson's motive, we can push the press to dig deeper." Magnolia exhaled. "But the press fears him, unless we have a living witness." That night, Bella remembered stumbling into the Whitmore mansion's parlor, overhearing Melanie and Patterson. Patterson echoed, "He'll learn obedience, or we'll destroy him." No recording, no proof, only her memory. But it was enough to fuel her. "Magnolia," Bella said, voice steady, "I'll go to Patterson. I'll make him expose himself." Magnolia paled. "Are you insane? He's not just a senator. He has bodyguards, power, everything. If you confront him, he'll crush you." Tears welled in Bella's eyes. "They've already taken Alex. If I do nothing, I lose him forever." The next day, disguised as a server, Bella slipped into a private Washington gala with help from immigrant friends indebted to the Whitmore Foundation. The chandeliers glowed over senators and tycoons. Bella carried a tray, pulse racing as she spotted Patterson among a circle of businessmen. She edged closer, feigned a stumble, spilling wine across his jacket. "My apologies, sir." Patterson's scowl froze when he recognized her. His lips curled into a chilling smile. "So, the girl herself. The Whitmores do have peculiar tastes." He leaned close, whispering, "Don't think you can save him. Alexander is already dead, just not buried." Bella trembled, but kept her mask of humility. Across the room, Magnolia's earring recorders captured every word. Before he could say more, another guest pulled Patterson away. Bella withdrew, her heart hammering. Back at the apartment, they replayed the tape. Patterson's voice was clear. "Alexander is already dead, just not buried." Bella's tears spilled. "We have proof." Magnolia gripped her shoulders. "It's only one piece. We'll need more to bring him down." Bella nodded fiercely. "Then I'll do whatever it takes." Magnolia gazed at her equal parts awe and fear. This fragile woman was willing to enter the lion's den for love. Soon after, independent journalists gathered to hear the tape. Their eyes flickered with excitement and dread. "This is dynamite," one said. "But not enough. He'll brush it off as a joke." Bella leaned forward, her voice unwavering. "Then I'll be bait. Patterson thinks I'm weak. That's when he'll make a mistake." Magnolia caught her hand. "Bella, if you do this, he won't just threaten you. He'll act." Bella's gaze blazed. "Alex is in prison. If I stay silent, I lose everything." 3 days later, Bella's phone rang from an unknown number. "Miss Perez," a deep voice intoned. "I work for Senator Patterson. He requests a private meeting. Tonight, 10 p.m., Mayflower Hotel, room 1702. If you refuse, remember, the FBI is very interested in your immigration papers." Bella gripped the phone tight a trap, but also the chance she needed. That night, she entered the suite, heart pounding. Patterson sat waiting, whiskey in hand, smile like a blade. "You're braver than I thought. I expected you to run, but perhaps you're here to negotiate." "Negotiate what?" Bella asked, her voice steady despite the quake inside. "Simple." He shrugged. "Leave Alexander. Leave America. I'll arrange new papers for you and your grandmother. A quiet life anywhere you choose. In return, you disappear. If not," his tone dropped to a venomous whisper, "Alex will rot in prison, and you deported in disgrace." Each word stabbed Bella's chest. "You ruin him because he refused your daughter." Patterson smirked. "It's not just about my daughter. It's power, legacy. Alexander is a fool to think love outweighs those." Bella swallowed hard. "If I agree, will you free him?" Patterson raised a brow. So you accept? Bella bit her lip until it bled. If it's the only way to save Alex, I'll do it. Triumph lit his eyes. He never noticed the delicate bracelet on Bella's wrist, its hidden microphone feeding every word to Magnolia, and a circle of journalists in the room next door. When Bella stumbled out of the hotel, Magnolia rushed to catch her. You did it, she breathed. We have everything: motive, threats, his confession. Patterson trapped himself. Bella broke down in tears. But when they release it, Alex will hear me say I'd leave him. He'll think I betrayed him. Magnolia held her tight. No, Bella, sacrifice isn't betrayal. It's love. The next day, a national broadcast shook America. Patterson's threats, his sneering confession, echoed across screens. Outrage erupted. Congress launched an immediate investigation. In his cell, Alex listened to the radio. His chest clenched, hearing Bella's voice promising to abandon him. For a moment, despair clawed at him until Magnolia's live interview aired. Bella Perez risked everything, even her heart, to obtain the evidence to free Alexander Whitmore. That was not betrayal. It was the bravest act of love I have ever witnessed. Tears stung his eyes. Bella, you saved me, even if it meant breaking me first. Meanwhile, Patterson raged in his office, shattering a glass of wine. Idiots! Who let her plant a microphone? But it was too late. Across the nation, his name was cursed as the emblem of corruption, and in the darkness, he knew the game was over. The media storm after the Patterson scandal struck like a political earthquake. Headlines blazed from Washington to Chicago. Senator Patterson exposed for corruption and financial manipulation. Conspiracy to topple Alexander Whitmore unveiled. Immigrant woman's courage reveals the truth. Within a week, Patterson was suspended, and a full investigation was launched. His allies fell like dominoes, and with no case left against him, Alex was released from federal custody on a freezing winter morning. The iron gate swung open. Alex emerged, gaunt from confinement, cameras flashing like lightning as reporters shouted questions. But Alex searched for only one face. Then he saw her. Bella stood amid the chaos, eyes shining with tears, with Rosa's hand-knit scarf around her neck. Their gazes locked, and the world fell away. Alex pushed past barriers, past shouts and flashing bulbs, and crushed her in his arms. You saved me, he whispered, voice trembling. Bella shook her head, tears dampening his coat. No, your love gave me the strength to do it. Days later, Alex returned to his penthouse. Once a fortress of solitude, it now felt different. But he knew his empire lay in ruins, shareholders deserting, partners cancelling contracts. One evening, he sat by the glass wall, staring at the glowing city. Bella placed a cup of tea beside him. What's on your mind? She asked softly. I thought Whitmore Group was untouchable. One conspiracy nearly destroyed it. I don't know what's left to hold on to. She sat beside him, taking his hand. You still have me, and your life ahead. Sometimes, losing everything is how we see what truly matters. He gazed at her, eyes softening. He kissed her hand. You are what matters. Soon after, Alex announced his resignation as CEO. The decision sent shockwaves through Wall Street, but he stood calm at the press conference. Whitmore Group doesn't need an ice king, he declared. It needs a new generation cleaner, more human. As for me, I choose another path. Watching from the wings, Bella's heart swelled with pride. Alex was no longer a man shackled by the past or hidden behind power. He had been reborn. Bella slid a folder across the table in their warm kitchen that night. I have an idea, she said, eyes alight. Inside was a proposal. Whitmore Morales Foundation, a charity to help immigrants, orphaned children, and families wronged by the system, Bella explained. We can use your experience and resources to build something meaningful. Alex sat silently, then broke into a rare, warm smile. I once built an empire on money. Now I'll build one on love and compassion. He pulled her close. We'll do this, together. Chicago outside remained cold, but spring had begun in the penthouse. Months later, the Whitmore Morales Foundation became a beacon of hope, not in golden halls or grand offices, but in a renovated house on the city's south side. There, Alex and Bella worked daily meeting immigrants in need of legal aid, hungry children, and exploited workers. And Alex discovered these small people gave him something no billion-dollar contract ever had the feeling of truly living. One afternoon, he sat in a worn plastic chair, listening to a 10-year-old boy describe his dream of attending school despite lacking papers. Beside him, Bella knelt, holding the boy's hand, speaking in both English and Spanish. "Your future deserves protection." Alex's chest ached. In that moment, Bella was not just his love, she was the light guiding him forward. The road was not easy. Critics dismissed the foundation as a PR stunt. Former Patterson allies tried to strangle it with red tape. Even the community itself sometimes doubted, fearing betrayal once more. But Alex didn't falter. He leveraged his old business networks to secure resources, while Bella led community gatherings, listening to stories and tears alike. "We can't promise to fix everything," she would say gently, "but we promise never to turn away." Simple words, but they won hearts. One evening, Alex and Bella returned to the penthouse after a long day. For the first time in years, it no longer felt cold. Fresh flowers graced the table, soft music drifted in the background, and they sat together at dinner like a true family. "You know," Alex said, peace glowing in his eyes, "I once thought I'd die alone, surrounded by billions, but no one beside me. But now," he squeezed her hand, "I see a future, and you're in it." Bella smiled through tears. "For me too, Alex. It doesn't matter what we have. What matters is we have each other." That night, Alex slept peacefully for the first time in 16 years. No nightmares, no screams. Only Bella's warmth beside him reminded him that he had finally been reborn. Their wedding did not occur in Chicago's gilded ballrooms, with fleets of luxury cars and a guest list of power players. Instead, it was held in the modest courtyard of the Whitmore Morales Foundation, where the walls still smelled of fresh paint and the wooden floors bore rough scars of labor. The sky that day was an impossible blue. Spring sunlight streamed through the windows, catching on white ribbons tied lovingly by children from the community. Bella wore a simple gown, sewn by a friend of Rosa's, not silk or diamonds, but soft white fabric that flowed gently around her figure. Her hair was tied back, adorned only with a sprig of jasmine, its fragrance recalling her grandmother's garden. Alex wore a navy suit, no longer the icy mask of the Ice King, but the calm gaze of a man who had found his home. The guests were ordinary people, immigrant families, those helped by the foundation, a few honest journalists who had chosen truth over influence, and Rosa, sitting in the front row, her eyes brimming with tears and pride. When the minister asked, "Alexander Whitmore, do you vow to love and cherish Isabella Morales, for richer or poorer, in sickness or in health, until death do you part?" Alex's voice was low but steady as he looked into Bella's eyes. "I do. Not only in this life, but in every life that follows." Bella wept as she answered, "I do too. No matter the road's hard, as long as you're with me, I fear nothing." When Alex kissed her, the room erupted in applause. It was not grand, but it was sacred. Instead of a honeymoon in exotic luxury, Alex and Bella spent their first days as husband and wife in a small wooden cabin by Lake Michigan. They cooked breakfast together each morning, walked along the shore, and read in the sunlight. For Alex, peace had never been so simple, not private jets or lavish banquets, but Bella's laughter echoing through the room, the touch of her hand anchoring him to a love that made him whole. One night by the fireplace, Bella leaned against him. "I never thought I'd have a day like this." Alex tightened his hold on her hand. "Neither did I. But you've shown me happiness doesn't need to be complicated. It can be simple and still complete." She smiled softly, and in the firelight, she saw something in his eyes she had once feared lost. Not ghosts, sorrow, love, and hope. Their life settled into a rhythm. They moved into a small suburban home, its walls decorated with children's drawings, its kitchen filled with Rosa's tamales, its backyard alive with the laughter of neighborhood kids. For Alex, once confined to echoing penthouses, this was heaven. Coming home to Bella humming while cooking, her hair tied back, was enough to melt every stress from his day. For Bella, peace was found in the little gestures. Alex wiping sweat from her brow, fixing a neighbor's chair, kneeling to listen to her quiet dreams. Yet beneath the calm lived a quiet yearning. One evening, Bella placed a hand on her stomach, her voice soft. "Do you ever think about us having a child?" Alex froze. The doctor's words from years ago echoed. The accident left severe damage. Natural conception is nearly impossible. He clasped her hand. "You know, I can't." Bella turned to him, her gaze tender. "I know, but I don't need biology to give us a family. We could adopt, care for a child who needs love. What matters is they grow up surrounded by it." Alex was silent for a long time. Then he nodded. "If it's your dream, then it's mine too." The path was more complicated than they imagined. Paperwork, probing interviews, wary glances at Alex's infamous past. "They see me as the ruthless billionaire," Alex said after one rejection. "Afraid I'll raise a child with ice in my veins." Bella squeezed his hand. "If only they knew you now making chicken soup for sick neighbors." Her laugh eased the sting, though the weight lingered. Rosa reminded them gently one night. "Family doesn't always come from blood. It comes from the heart. You'll find the child meant for you. Be patient." Her words settled into Alex like balm. At last, the call came. "There's a 2-year-old boy in need of a home. Would you like to meet him?" Bella wept into Alex's chest. He, too, was choked with tears. Their dream was close enough to touch. The morning of the visit, both were a bundle of nerves. Bella changed dresses 3 times. Alex fixed his tie 10. Their little house seemed to vibrate with hope and fear. "Do you think he'll like us?" Bella whispered as they drove. Alex gripped her hand. "I don't know, but I promise I'll love him whether it takes a day or a lifetime for him to love us back." At the center, they found a small boy clutching a worn teddy bear. Big, wary eyes lifted to theirs. "This is Mateo," the staff said softly. "He's been here nearly a year since losing his parents." Bella knelt to meet his gaze. "Hola, Mateo. I'm Bella." He said nothing, only held his bear tighter. Alex crouched beside her, his smile gentle. "I'm Alex. That bear looks like a brave warrior." The boy blinked, then whispered, "Selama Leon. His name is Lion." Bella's tears blurred her vision. They had heard the first piece of his heart. The journey was slow. Mateo laughed rarely, tested boundaries often, and sometimes looked at Alex with suspicion. But day by day, cracks formed in his walls. Alex fumbled with wooden blocks one afternoon until they toppled in a heap. Mateo giggled. The sound was like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. Bella and Alex exchanged a look of unspoken joy. Perhaps they were becoming a family. When Mateo finally came home, the little house was transformed with ribbons, Rosa's cooking, and shockingly Melanie's gift. A wooden bed from Alex's childhood. Mateo clung to Bella's hand at the doorway, eyes wide with wonder. "Welcome home, Mateo," Bella whispered. Alex scooped him up, spinning him gently. "Now you'll have your own room, a garden to play in, and," he lowered his voice playfully, "a dad who makes the best pancakes in the world." Mateo giggled, wrapping his arms around Alex's neck for the first time. The emptiness in Alex's heart finally began to heal. The nights were not always easy. Mateo woke crying for his lost parents. Bella sang him Spanish lullabies from her childhood. Alex sat beside the bed until the boy's tears eased. Once, after a tantrum left toys scattered everywhere, Alex calmly gathered them, kneeling at Mateo's side. "You can be angry, you can cry, but don't be afraid. I'm not leaving you." The boy's eyes filled with tears. For the first time, he whispered, "Papa." Alex was nearly broken. One word yet, it undid 16 years of grief. Bella, too, received her moment. Mateo ran into the kitchen one afternoon, tugging at her apron. "Mommy, Mira, I drew our house." The picture was crooked, messy, and perfect. A small home, a tall father, a long-haired mother, and a smiling boy clutching a bear named Leon. Bella clutched the drawing to her chest, tears streaming. Mateo was truly theirs. Life settled into harmony, mornings filled with songs in the car, afternoons cooking together, nights reading bedtime stories. One evening, after Mateo fell asleep, Bella whispered into Alex's shoulder, "See, we have a family." Alex held her close, his heart overflowing. Every loss, every battle, every scar, they had all led here. And now, they were not two broken souls anymore. They were whole. There were three. They were a family. That winter in Chicago was harsher than any before. Snow blanketed the streets in thick, silent drifts, and the wind pierced skin like 1,000 needles. Yet warmth and laughter filled every corner inside the small Whitmore Morales home. Mateo was 7 now, tall and lively, his black hair always in a tousled mess as he darted around the living room. The walls were plastered with his drawings, simple houses, smiling suns, and more elaborate sketches of the family walking hand in hand beneath starry skies. "Papa, faster!" Mateo shouted as Alex ran slowly, letting his son win their cardboard box race. Bella sat on the sofa, cradling a mug of hot cocoa, her gaze glowing with love for the two people who had become her whole world. Since Mateo came into their lives, the house had never lacked laughter. Pain and loss had retreated into the distance, like old ghosts fading into mist. That night, after Mateo was asleep, Bella clasped Alex's hand and whispered, "Have you ever thought about trying one more time?" He stilled. He knew what she meant. They had tried before, and each failure had cut him deeply, making him fear he was only hurting her. "Bella." He kissed her hair with a sigh. "I don't want you to hope only to hurt again." Her brown eyes shone with quiet resolve. "This isn't just about me. It's about us. I believe miracles can happen more than once." Alex hesitated. He had never believed in miracles. And yet wasn't Bella his first? And Mateo, the boy who had turned their endless winter into spring? A month later, the doctor gave a small, kind smile after tests and long silences at Dr. Carter's office. "The chances are slim but not impossible. If you are both strong enough, I think it's worth trying. One last time." Alex gripped Bella's hand tightly, meeting her eyes. "One last time. And no matter the outcome, we are already a family." The waiting days dragged on endlessly. Bella carried on teaching, caring for Mateo, smiling through the routine. Yet every evening, when the family gathered together, Alex saw the spark of hope burning in her eyes, and he could not bring himself to dim it. Then came the result. Bella sat in silence, tears streaming. Alex pulled her into his arms, bracing for the familiar ache. But then, with trembling hands pressed to her belly, she whispered, "Alex, I'm pregnant." For a moment, he thought he had misheard. His heart leapt wildly, his body shaking. He crushed her in his arms, unable to speak. Outside, snow still fell, but inside Alex's chest, spring had already begun. Mateo's reaction was pure joy. "I'm going to be a big brother," he exclaimed, eyes round with excitement. "I'll teach the baby superheroes, and tell Leon's stories too." From that day, he announced proudly to everyone, "I'm going to be a big brother," and filled page after page with drawings of their family now with a new little member in the center. But happiness came with trials. Bella's pregnancy was not easy. She grew weaker, often nauseous, and suffered pains that kept Alex awake in worry. He became her shadow, preparing nutritious meals, driving her to school so she wouldn't walk in the cold, and reading aloud from baby books at night. Sometimes, when she couldn't sleep, Alex sat beside her, hand resting gently on her belly, whispering, "Stay strong, little one. Be like your mama. I'm waiting for the day I can hold you." Mateo would press his cheek to her stomach, whispering, "Hola, hermanita. I'm Mateo. I'll protect you, just like Papa protects Mommy." Bella wept softly at those moments. Her family was already a miracle. At 7 months, complications arose. During a routine checkup, Dr. Carter pulled Alex aside. "She's showing signs of preeclampsia, high blood pressure. If it worsens, we may have to deliver early." Alex felt the ground vanish beneath him. Returning to the room, he tried to mask his fear, but Bella knew. "Don't hide it," she said quietly. "Tell me." He swallowed hard. "There's risk, but we'll get through it." Like always, her eyes held a calm strength. "If you have to choose between me and the baby—" "Don't say that," Alex cried, his voice breaking. "I won't choose. I will never choose. We'll both make it through." One spring night, The storm came. Bella collapsed in pain, and the house erupted into chaos. Alex carrying her to the car, Mateo crying hysterically, Rosa whispering prayers through trembling lips. Under the blinding lights of the operating room, Alex clutched Bella's hand until the doctors wheeled her away. His voice cracked as he called after her, "I'm here, Bella. Don't be afraid." And then a cry. Fragile, piercing, miraculous. Alex broke down in tears as a nurse placed a tiny, red-faced baby girl into his trembling arms. "Your daughter," the doctor said gently. She was small, with dark hair like Bella's, her eyes still shut tight. Alex's heart surged with a fierce, overwhelming love that nearly crushed him. Bella, pale but smiling, was wheeled in. When the baby was placed beside her, she whispered, "See? I told you. Miracles are real." Mateo rushed into the recovery room, eyes shining. Climbing onto the bed, he stroked the baby's tiny hand. "Hola, Lucía. I'm Mateo. I promise I'll always protect you." Lucía. The name Bella had chosen long ago light. That night, Alex sat by Bella's bedside. Lucía slept in his arms. Mateo curled against him, clutching Leon. He gazed at them, his wife, son, daughter, and tears slipped down his cheeks. Every loss, every scar, every storm had led him here. In a trembling whisper, part prayer, part vow, he said, "God gave me a second chance. I will never waste it. Bella, Mateo, Lucía, you are my final, forever miracle."